elementary education perspective, where you had public school system in almost every state by 1860s. You go to the 19th century, it was universal public schooling for all students was expounded. So by 1918s, there was a compulsory education and truancy laws already in place. So we're moving from parents being the sole provider of education to the local jurisdiction, but now we're actually switching back to the parents who want to be more involved again. So they want to that. They actually started the National Congress of Mothers in 1897, which was a forerunner of the PTA. And then you had in 1926 the National Congress of Colored Parents and Teachers. Now, Congress signed a ratification to actually join both in 1970. Hold on. I don't know if I can, it's not sharing. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, we're able to
Yeah,
see the screen.
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, good, good, okay. See the screen too?
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay, so,
and hear.
Great. So now you got multiple programs in regards to parental involvement, and it dates back to 1642, and you got ESEA, you got NCLB. I'm not going to detail all this, but they actually complied with the fact that they were instituting to have parents more involved in their children's education, right? Now, I'm going to run through this very quickly. I mean, when you look at back, and you got Reagan, President Bush. I mean, these are guys who decided the contributing factor was the lack of parental involvement. So they went ahead and in 1994, Clinton had signed Goals 2000, which there were 8 goals, but the 8th one was that every school will promote partnership in regards to parental involvement. Now, this was due to the fact that for schools to get federal funding, you had to increase parental involvement. Now, the question is, allowing for parental involvement, is it really happening? You know, is parental involvement truly happening, or is it the fact that schools are getting funding for it? All right, 97, there was a comprehensive school reform. ESEA had passed NCLB, where you wanted more parental involvement. So the sense of parental involvement was there in paper, on policy was there, but how effective is actually parental involvement occurring, right? I mean, I think it was, you know, on paper it was good, but it wasn't really occurring to the point where it should happen. So now when we talk about involvement and engagement, I don't think you can separate these two. I think involvement is just as important as engagement is. Now, involvement talks to where schools are actually telling parents what to do, how to do, when to do it, as opposed to the engagement piece where you're actually coming together and you're actually building partnership, building community with the parents. Now, it's a connectivity that we talk about. Now, the next slide, I think it's critical in regards to, it says, when it comes to breakfast of ham and eggs, the chicken is involved, but the pig is committed. You know, so it's a sense of, yes, you do have involvement, but you also have engagement. Now, that may look different for everybody, and that's fine. But I think it's fostering involvement and engagement in different realms. Now, involvement research says that, you know, parental involvement is helping with homework, getting kids to school on time, having a safe space for them, meeting with parents, meeting with teachers, attending extracurricular activities. Now, as opposed to engagement it's a collaboration, right? It's not just an isolated event where parents are at home and the children are in school, and it's a building community, and it's an engagement where partners are with school personnel. Now, the next several slides I'm going to jump over due to, and it's all about research. Now, we know that when we have fathers involved, that the outcome is positive, whether it's emotional, cognitive, or social, is very positive. But the question is, if we know that, what are we doing to ensure that we are going to go ahead and engage the parents in this realm, right? So we know some of the facts out there, as we've seen in documentation, that, you know, the father absence, you're more likely to have behavior problems, more likely to go to prison, more likely to face abuse or neglect, more likely to abuse alcohol or drugs, twice more likely to drop out of high school. I mean, knowing these facts, what are we doing as educators? Because ultimately the reason we're doing it is for the success of the children, right? To enable them to be successful. So how are we engaging the fathers in this journey of academics with the children. And research says that while there are multiple ways for parents to contribute, the barriers are existing for parental involvement in schools to address increased involvement. So I think you go back to legislation, you go back to policy, it's wonderful on paper, but what are we really doing in each setting, in each school? What are we doing, right? So I want to take this time right here, just a few minutes. And now, those who printed this out, it was on the handouts. If you didn't, don't worry about it. Just take a few minutes to jot down some barriers that you think hold back fathers from being engaged, whether it's, we won't get into that, but just take a few minutes. Daryl, if you can break us out for like maybe 3 minutes, we can come back. If you can break out 2 groups, Daryl.
So you want 2 groups, and we're going to talk about the barriers to father
involvement or engagement. Yes, sir.
Okay. 2 groups, assign automatically. All right, folks, you should have an invite to go into a session, and I'm going to join number 2. How much time you say?
see, how do I, let's see, breakout rooms.
All right. Just give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me. You know, being out in La Paz, some of the connection out here is a little sketchy sometimes, you know. Great, great. Let me go ahead and share screen again. Spoke about barriers, right? We spoke about barriers. And so some of the barriers that we encounter, and I want to run through this quickly because I see how our time is running short. Move through these really fast. Some of the barriers we kind of touched on, and I'm going to kind of just briefly run through this quickly is, sorry guys, is you talk about time constraint in regards to fathers or just being there in regards to convenience of having more than one child in one school. How can you attend the meetings, schedules, language barriers? How many of us are in communities where there are multiple cultures present, you know, and how are these memos or notices going home translated into the different cultures? How negative phone calls from school in regards to what your child was not doing, as opposed to what your child was doing, you know. And so these and men may feel out of place in regards to not being a part of the journey with the children, right? The lack of motivation, lack of knowledge, school not letting the fathers or parents know what exactly is going on with the events. From the school's perspective, not allowing parents. So I mean, I think there are multiple barriers that we come across, multiple barriers. And the question is, what are we doing to engage fathers so we kind of eliminate these barriers, right? And there's a lot of research out there, and what we're talking about. I mean, childcare, transport, language, work schedules. I mean, these are all that's out there that's talking about barriers. So I'm not going to go over all these slides, and I want to take the next few minutes and just take a minute. We're not going to break out right now, Daryl, and take a minute to kind of think about in your respective places of work, what strategies have you implemented to engage fathers? You know, and just take about 2 minutes to do that. We'll come back and we'll share out as we go through the rest of the session. What strategies have you implemented, or the schools or agencies you've implemented to involve fathers in the classroom? So just take about 2 minutes, and we're not going to break out. We'll put a 2-minute timer on myself, and then we'll come right back. Just think about best practices, strategies, things that worked for dads. Maybe things you've tried and it didn't work, and that's fine too.
Dr. Howard, I think he got disconnected.
We lost Dr. Abraham.
Yeah.
Let me
But-
see. Yeah, he's not on the.
But I guess when you made the breakout rooms, Deborah was sharing some really good insight, but unfortunately it got cut off. So if you wanted to share some of that insight, Deborah, it would be appreciated. So we keep that conversation going.
Yes. What I was sharing is one of the things that we did was we invited the fathers to come in. And when they came in, we shared the data. And the data was the true data. We didn't take it and try to pretty it up and, as they say now, sexy it up. We didn't do any of that. We just gave the truth. And it showed that there was such a discrepancy in academic achievement, especially with our African-American males and students who were considered Caucasian or Asian. So one of the things that happened, the men started to talk, and it became clear that there was two distinct groups who were there. Those who felt they were professionally successful as a result of getting a good education, and those who weren't as professionally successful in their lives as a result of not getting a good education. What they decided right then was they wanted to do something tangible. And the main thing that they talked about, besides being invited into school regularly, which I saw that the doctor had up, but also they wanted to make sure that all of the kids as young as possible, and since we were in middle school, we started it at middle school, were exposed to college. The fathers who saw themselves as more professionally successful were the ones who said they were exposed to colleges and college campuses very early in their life. And I remember that resonated with me because when I was in elementary school, my mom's younger sister went to college and I was exposed to being at the University of Pittsburgh, and it changed my life. It changed everything about my goals, what I was going to do, where I was going to go. There was something about being on that college campus with all of those young adults that just, I knew right then that was something I was going to do. So we ended up working together. We got a $10,000 grant from AOL, and we spent the majority of that grant over several years taking all 8th graders to college campuses, exposing them to college. There's some other things we did that was also great that had an awesome impact on academic achievement, on honor roll, especially again with our African-American males. We have the data where it went up, everything went up, discipline went down, but I don't want to, monopolize this, but I would be more than happy to share all of those strategies that we used. And as I said, in the breakout, then not only did we have the Father Circle at Kingsview Middle School, but then it went to several other schools, and again, was still very successful.
Deborah, I appreciate you sharing that because you brought up some good points. When I was working in Arlington Public Schools at the elementary level, I was able to write to DC United, the soccer team, and they used to give us free soccer tickets, and that would offer the students also a meal with that. And I was able to involve fathers through that way. Fathers of all colors, and they were coming together doing free activities. We would take the metro, and the kids would, these were memories that they were making, and the kids were so excited to be with their dads, and they were so proud doing things like that. And we were also able to get tickets for the nationals as well. I wrote to them, and they donated, and the kids had a ball, and reaching out to different corporations, and maybe, if you can find a grant, that would be helpful. But I was doing some of those things on my own. And as you were mentioning, the achievement gap piece, my cousin was playing football at Howard University. So I would take some of these young kids to watch a football game, and being on the college campus, like you said, would change their mindset. Seeing kids that look like them, seeing successful kids. He plays sports and he's going to school too. I want to do that. So they had that vision at an early age from the elementary level. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. We were able to hook up with the NFL, and they sent us certain, they have all of these extra t-shirts, et cetera, et cetera. So we would do these quarterly assemblies and give it to the kids. I knew somebody who played for the Washington Nationals. He came in and motivated the kids. So then we started bringing in speakers. I'm going to tell you one other thing that we did. And this is the thing that I was saying to MCPS officials about how we can do these things. They don't cost money. So often they look at the things, everything has to be technology or, how much does it cost? These things are free. But one of the things that we did was once a month, we had an open house at the school only for fathers. Only for fathers. We invited them to come in 2-hour shifts because we knew most of them worked. And so to ask them to give up a whole day, it just wasn't going to work. But to come in from 8 to 10, and then somebody else to 10 to 12, and then to come in 12 to 2, it made such, on those days, what we noticed was we had no problems with discipline. None, no office referrals. Everybody's homework was done because the fathers told them, I'm gonna be in school. And what we did was we invited them into the school, not just into their child's classes. They could go to any class they wanted to in the building, any. We had coffee and donuts. We had a little lounge for them. We had, we made them our stars. We gave them these little lanyards that said special guests. And I mean, we made out over them because they were. The good thing about that was they would sit in an English class, an algebra class, a world history class, and they now had knowledge about what it used to be for them and what the differences are now. They saw the technology being used, and they could go home and have real-time conversations with their kids. They also got to know teachers and the staff. And the staff had an image that most of these kids, quote, most Black kids, quote, don't have fathers or don't have a significant male in their life. So we have fathers, grandfathers, uncles, any male come in. And that just smashed that myth. It destroyed that myth in the school that these kids didn't have a man who cared about them. At one point, when we did our attendance for one of the years, everybody had somebody who represented them at least for one activity, except for 2 kids. So it really showed that not only are these fathers there and these significant others are there, but they care about these kids. And the data that we got back as a result of just opening up our school, and they're saying 10 times a year. So yeah, you can come to the basketball games, you can come to the play, you can come to the concert, but come during the day. Come when the instruction's going on. Come during the teaching and learning. Come when the kids are in the hallway. Come sit in the cafeteria. Go into the media center. See what's going on. And that made such a difference.
You're right, Deborah. I'm sorry about the connection. It's really bad, but Deborah, you're right. I mean, I think what you spoke to is the fact that, you know what, it's feasible, it's doable. It's allowing the fathers to know, you know what, when can you come in? How can you help? Give them the ability to decide. It may not work on the schedule for the school, but you know what, we can work around that. There are other ways to ensure. I mean, just to have the exposure for other children to see fathers in a school building, is powerful. Yep. It's powerful. But anybody else? I mean, these are amazing suggestions. And what you say, Deborah, is exactly right. I mean, this is very doable. A lot of times we get caught up in in policy and legislation, but you know what? Let's think about where we are specifically. And how can I get my children's parents involved, and fathers involved? Anybody
what can
else?
We do now?
That's right. No, but I think a lot of times we put together an action plan. I think an action plan is fluid, but it's something in regards to how effective is it today for us? I think we plan ahead 3-5 years ahead for strategic planning, but I mean, I think you're right. What can we do right now, this week, to engage dads? Anybody
Our
else?
kids our kids need this. And I'm so glad you said that all kids need to see this. We used to do the father-son basketball games, and in between each game, we would have each father bring up a book that they have read and say why that book spoke to them. Doesn't mean what book it doesn't matter what book it was, any book. At the end of the very first basketball game, I was sitting there talking to a kid, happened to be Latino little boy. I knew him, and he was looking like he was in shock. And I said to him, "What's the matter? You look so, like out of it." He said, "I'm sitting here thinking." I said, "Well, what are you thinking about?" He said, "I never knew black men could read."
Mm,
Wow.
mm,
He said, I've never seen black men read."
Hmm.
That thing stopped me, and I mean, it's like 20 years ago, and I have not forgotten that. It stopped me in my tracks because this kid had never seen black men in the media
Hmm.
portrayed as readers, as learners, as those who give knowledge or who get knowledge in. He was shocked that all of these black men were standing up with books and talking about books they read. Now think about that. When was the last time you saw a black man reading a book anywhere, on a billboard, in a commercial, on television? When have you seen a Latino man
Mhm.
reading a book?
Great point.
No, I think it's societal influence.
So you know what I did? I
Tell me.
took that, and every year I had the fathers come in with their sons, and we did read posters and put them all over the school.
Go ahead. So great. Yeah, I love that example, and I think we need to capture some images that allow for that to be more available for folks. Doc, I just wanted to let you know we got about 5 minutes. Dr.
5 minutes,
Abraham.
man?
Yeah, to bring us
Yeah.
to a close.
No, I think you're right in regards to, when Daryl, we went back to you saying about societal influences, how can we change that narrative to say, you know what, fathers are important, men are important. We need to include them somehow. We need to change that narrative today, really, and not tomorrow, and I think it's, and I think, what you're doing, Deborah, is amazing in regards to what you've done is being intentional. We have to be intentional with our fathers, right? We have to include them, allow them to be a part of this whole process and journey that we're going together. That is not a separation of home, separation of school, but it's actually a combination, and it's a partnership, and it strongly affects the children's success and outcome greatly. I'm so sorry to you guys about in regards to this connection problem. This is I would love to extend this conversation out longer, but I think, this is something that, we need to make a change of as quickly as possible. And we're talking about, our communities where we have Black and brown kids. They need to see a change happen quickly. And so I think this is, Daryl, as I said to you and Damon earlier, man, I think we can go have a discussion on this for hours, hours, and I think what you guys are doing with Bond is very timely. I think we need to actually start moving on this in the direction that you guys are moving in. So I thank you, Daryl. Thank you guys for joining us today. I would love to stay in touch and kind of find out what you guys are doing. Send me a message, stay connected. But thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the conference, huh?
Yeah, put your contact information in the chat for us, Doc.
I will.
So folks can connect. Yep, sounds good, man. Been a good day, man. A lot of good learning today. And
No, it was amazing. It was amazing, and you guys have so much to offer. So much to offer.
Yeah, I'm glad you're recording the sessions, man, because I felt like I wanted to go everywhere, but there's not enough time.
Same, Jose. I was like, I one point in time I was like, okay, let me get to this one. Oh, but I like this one a little bit more. So let me try to get this and here before they close it.
Exactly.
And with that, I'm gonna stop the recording before we start small talking too much. Move to the cloud.